Hey everyone, Professor Caldwell here. I hope all is well. We're going to talk about the APA writing right now that's required for this course. So if you will open up Blackboard, you will see, and if you need to pause, just do that and open this up. What you'll see is, as I mentioned in the syllabus video, what you see first is your academic calendar tab. Then you see your syllabus tab, and that's where you find both of those things. Click those. Then, of course, your course modules, which I went over in the syllabus video. And the LCDC resources is the last tab. And you'll see an extra credit tab at some point about midway through the season. I'm ready for football season. If you can't tell, go Cowboys. But that said, through the semester, right? But then there's the APA writing tab. And so I mentioned a little bit about why I think APA is so important, right? It's because I wasn't prepared in grad school. For those that aren't going to grad school, that's okay. You're still going to need to know how to write APA writing, right? Or at least be familiar with what it consists of, right? We don't have to be professional writers at it. This is an English class, right? But we do have to be professionals and present with a professional disposition. And for example, I mentioned I don't use it every day by any means, but I do use it. Like, I need to know how to cite a book when it comes to my website, right? I have a whole page of resources of books. So, those kinds of things are important. And when I work with professionals and I need to cite something, so first tab is going to be an overview. When you click the APA tab, and it just I'm going to get rid of this actually, cancel that. I'm just going to, it won't let me cancel that. Maybe it will. So let's just say maybe there'll be a tab that says overview. Maybe there won't. It's not important. It just says this is what these modules consist of. But the first tab that counts is the APA 7 sample paper. If you click that, this shows you exactly APA writing. This is a great example. This is a very long paper. Our papers are not nearly this long. But it just shows you can see let's look at the title page. So here's what happens is every APA paper, not discussion. Okay, well, let me start over. Everything we do is going to be in a certain format, right? Which is APA 7 style writing. That consists of Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double spaced 1-inch margins. That's on everything you do, discussion boards, papers, everything, every assignment. If you don't know how to make your spacing double spaced, if you don't know how to do your margins, if you don't know how to make it Times New Roman, it's the easiest thing you'll ever do. You literally highlight it, go to the top of a Word document and change it. Super simple. So I'm a stickler for it because it is that simple. And if you don't do it, you're just really not taking the effort to do it because it's super simple, right? So just like anything on all our writing, it not only needs to be in that proper format, but this is something I didn't really get to on the syllabus video, and I usually do. So I'll address it now, is we're not going to use emojis. We're not going to use LOLs. We're not going to use small case I's. Use your basic writing skills. And every semester I get students that can't capitalize an I for some reason. These are my wife is a 4th grade teacher and they know how to do that, right? So if you don't do that, that just means you're not taking time to read your work before you turn it in. Another big pet peeve of mine is when you do a Word document, a little red line comes under a word, correct it before you turn it in. That's what that's telling you, is something's wrong here. It's a miss. This isn't correct. Click it, fix it, turn it in that way. So proofread your work, go over. Don't just turn stuff in like that. We hold an academic standard at the university here, right? So anyways, back to this title page. So a paper. Again, we'll talk about DBs next, but right now we're talking about the papers, 4 papers. Every one of them have a title page, a body page or pages, and then a resource page, a reference page, right? So if you look at this, you'll see these green and blue boxes, and it shows you exactly what to do on a title page. Every semester I get crazy borders, big font. None of that's necessary. Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced. Now, you'll see here in the header, right, which is the very top of the paper, all there is a page number, and it needs to start on the title page. Page 1, top right corner. Then you see, and it says here in this green box with the arrow under the title, the paper's title should be centered, bold, and written in the title case, meaning all of these things are, you see all the first letters are capitalized. That's what it means in title case. It should be 3 or 4 lines below the top margin of the page, meaning below the header. You see it's not in the middle of the page. It's not all, it's 3 or 4 spaces, right? And so then you see the next thing is the author's name. So that would be your name. Then there is Department of English, Purdue University. So that would be Colby School. I'm sorry, so many universities are going through my United States University of St. Thomas. The English 101 would be Daac 1300, Mental Health, Ethics, and Addiction. My name is Professor Caldwell, Professor Dan Caldwell, and then the date. That's it. That's a title page. So I'm going to show you on the next tab a student's page without all the boxes. It'll look much cleaner. You'll get a better idea. But if you don't know, this is where you look. So then you have your title page, separate by itself. You see there's scanned down, there's nothing else on it, right? And then you have, in our case, a minimum of 2 pages, maximum of 3 pages paper, right? And there's an abstract here. You're not required to do an abstract in any of our work. So an abstract tells you on a research paper what the paper's about. You don't need to do that for our work. No abstract. Just start with the paper. But you see there's a title in bold, just the same title you put at top of your title page. Your first line of a sentence is always indented. I get this all the time where it's not. These are basic writing skills, guys. You got to use them, right? So then you start your paragraphs, and you'll see if you look through here, the citations, but we'll show you that a little differently in the next couple of examples. So if you come down all the way to the very end of the page, let's go to page 27 on here. Let's start with 26. You'll see the reference page. This should be its own page. This is how it looks. You'll only have one because there's only 2 to 3 references depending on what you use. You're only required 2, so you're not going to need more than a page, but you see it just simply says references, bolded, no colon, no semicolon, no underline, 12-point font, Times New Roman, bold. It says references. Then you come down and cite your citations that you used in alphabetical order, right? One thing I want you to notice about these citations is it's the opposite of writing a sentence. When you write a sentence or a paragraph, you start the first sentence indenting the first sentence, as I just stated. In the references, you only indent the secondary sentences. The first sentence is not indented, as you see here, right? And I'm going to show you a super easy way to learn this. I don't know how to do it, honestly, without what I'm going to show you, make it super easy. That said, this is a title page, reference page. Now let me click out of this, right? Click out of the APA sample paper, and the very next tab you're going to see is called Student Example Paper. Click that paper, click that link, and it's going to bring up a paper. Perfect. Now what I'm going to ask you to do, you see there's a black tab here with a plus or a full screen, and then there in the right corner of that tab is an arrow pointing down. Click that. That's downloading this document. When you download it, you'll be able to see my comments on it. It doesn't show up like this. So I want you to download it, open it up so we can go over it with the comments showing. Okay, but you notice how clean this title page is. It's just like that other one, right? Only thing in the top header is the page number. You see Abigail's title for this page, Alcoholics Anonymous paper. It's perfect. You see my comment is this title page is perfect. It's bolded. The letters are capitalized. This was from a Lone Star college student in 2023. She was gracious enough to allow me to use this as her example, as my example. I updated it this year. So the author's name, in this case, Abigail. Normandin, right? And then Lone Star College, Human Services. So that's probably backwards. It should be Human Services, Lone Star College, but I'm not that particular. It's fine. Then that's the class title, Daac 2341, 4W01. Now it should be followed, instead of 4W01, it should have the name of the class. In that case, I think we call it Counseling of Substance Use Disorders. My name, Professor Dan Caldwell. Probably should have professor there. And then 9/24/23, the date. That's it. That's the title page. If you scroll down a little bit to the bottom of the page, you see it's 3 or 4 spaces away from the title. From the header. It's not in the middle of the paper. It's just like that APA sample paper said. So here's what I'm going to tell you can do. You can copy and paste this exact material right here and just change the material or the information to your name. Change the title, obviously you'll change the school name, you'll change almost everything on here, but this is the format. You can copy and paste it and change your information. Look, I don't know why we need a title page. If you ask me, they're silly. I've never used a title page outside of these papers and outside of faxing someone something, right? Which I don't even do anymore. But that said, this is APA writing and you got to know how to do it. So, title page, copy and paste it. Super simple. No big fonts, no big borders, no pictures, no thumbs up emojis, nothing. Very clean, very academically sound, right? This is my expectation. And again, it's super easy. Copy and paste. I don't know how many ways to say that, right? Copy and paste it. Now, I did have a student, and this is a first, and it was something else, right? They copied and pasted but left all this same information. Well, that's just plagiarism. You can't do that, right? We're just saying copy and paste it and change your information. Now, if you come down, you see second page, she goes right into her work. Here's the same title, bolded, centered. Good paper title. You see my comment. This is how I will respond to your papers. This is why everything needs to be in a Word document. I will not accept a PDF. I said this in the syllabus video. If you cannot have access to a Word document, you need to talk to me about that immediately, because I can't do this on a PDF. So I can, I'm just not paying for that service. So you have to do a Word document. So this, you'll see, I'll comment on most of your papers just like this. If you click on the comment, you'll see it's highlighted, right? You'll see what the comment is about, right? So let me show you. You see right here where it says good, the second comment, that's her first citation in the work. You have to cite your work inside the writing, just like this, where it says American Addiction Centers 2023. It's always the author and the date, and sometimes a page number. I'm going to explain to you when you use both. And you have to do it, if you humor me here and run down to the very last page, you see her reference page. Now, the only thing wrong with this reference page is the spacing, and it needs to be in alphabetical order. But you'll find that citation in here, right? And that's where you see at the bottom, the last citation from the American Addiction Centers. That's 2023. That's the citation at the end, right? And so if we go back up to the first page, page 2, where she's writing, you'll follow this work and you'll see citations throughout. You see here at the bottom of page 2 where it says Alcoholics Anonymous 2001. That's a citation inside the work. If you follow it down to the references, it's down there as well. And you'll see she's used many of them. Now you see at page 3, second paragraph, she's got Alcoholics Anonymous 2001, page 118. That means you see right before that, there's a sentence. The sentence is in quotation marks. That's considered a direct quote, meaning I copied that word for word from this source, Alcoholics Anonymous 2001, page 118. If it was a website, it would say para, P-A-R-A, whatever paragraph. You literally have to count the paragraphs. But this is saying I took this exact work from this book. So the idea of citations is that you're giving credit to someone else's work, right? I can't just take somebody's work and make it my own, right? Like there are certain things you don't have to cite. Like what they say is considered common knowledge. And that gets tricky because my common knowledge, your common knowledge, their common knowledge may be very different, right? But we say if I say in a paper the sun is yellow, I don't have to cite that. Why? Because I can look up at the sun and see it's yellow, right? I'm not making that up. I didn't take that information from anywhere. Also, like if I were to say to you, the American flag is red, white, and blue. I don't have to cite that because we can see that very clearly. That's common knowledge. But if I say in that paper, Betsy Ross sewed the first American flag in 1776, I better cite that somewhere because where am I getting that information? I didn't just make, that's not considered common knowledge. Meaning, where did I come up with that information? Did I just make that up and present it as fact, or did I learn that from somewhere? Right? So that's why we cite. It's super important. We can't just make things up, right? Or not give credit or not support our opinion, right? That's important to know too. Sometimes we cite information to support our opinions. So you can see I mean, the minor mistakes on this thing, like I said, the spacing and the references, a little bit in the title, but nothing serious. You can follow all these comments. This is what your papers need to look like. You see it's two, let's see, it's one, I'm sorry here. It's 1, 2, 3 full pages. Now yours don't have to be 3 full pages. It can be 2 pages. Maximum 3. She's right at the 3 mark. You see the references here. Now she put a colon, probably shouldn't have, but that's minimal stuff. Like nobody cares about that. I'm not going to take points off for that. Again, there should still be double spacing between these, but you see how her resources are, well, the second one's not, but you see 1, 2, or 1, 3, 4, and 5, they're all indented after the first line. That's how a reference should look, right? You'll see my comment at the bottom of the page, and you see where I corrected it. Remember to keep your font and spacing here. I should have told her I missed some things too. I'm human, right? I should have told her to make sure it was in alphabetical order. That's how you cite things, right? So that's an idea for the papers. This is how a paper should look, right? This is exact what I want in a paper. Nothing, I don't want any deviation from this. I don't want big fonts. I don't want underlines. I don't want headings, subheadings. We don't want any of that stuff. This is the model of what a paper should look like. Exactly. Now, I mentioned I was going to turn you on to something that helps you cite your work. So there is a thing, and most college professors probably frown against this, but you know, it's there. We're going to use it. I use it every day. Well, that's not true. I don't know why I said that. I don't use it every day, but I use it when I need to cite something. There's something called the citation machine. If you just Google the citation machine and you put in the name of your book or the information that it's asking for, author, publishing date, publishing company, title, it'll cite it for you in APA 7. Then basically you just put it on here. Now, one other thing, since I'm seeing it now, is the gray. You got to learn how to copy and paste where you don't have that gray line. You can do that, and I'll show you how anytime if you don't already know. Other than that, you can copy and paste it. So you see, she didn't lose any points for these minor infractions. They're very minor. Hers are very, very minor. So there's nothing to take points off for. This is an excellent work. Are there things to be improved? Sure, but it's an excellent work. It's literally one of the best ones I've had turned in, right? And that's why I asked her if I could use it as an example. And so this is what my expectation is of a paper, right? So I need you to really pay attention to this. So if we click out of this now, and we're back in Blackboard. Sorry, I teach at Lone Star, and they use a thing called D2L. So sometimes you might hear me slip and say D2L. I mean Blackboard. And now you'll go to the first APA example, and it says APA example DB. Right? Wait, I'm missing an APA example. Okay, APA DB. And so I want you to download that one as well. and you'll see my comments on the side. You don't see them unless you download it. So download it. And this is me writing a DB. This is my expectation in a discussion board. Now, we can't, in a discussion board, we're sharing information with our peers and having just what it implies a discussion. However, we can't just eat up space saying, oh, I really appreciate what you said. I loved what you said. That's fine. You can mention that. But that can't be line after line. So let me just show you. This is my example of an original DB post. So you'll notice if you go by these, again, you've downloaded this, you can see my comments here. And if you roll over the comment, it'll show you what I'm commenting on. So the first comment says, I paraphrased and cited accordingly without quotation marks and a page number is not required. So when I paraphrase something and still credit the person I took it from, that means I re-put it in my own words, right? So there is a major problem in the United States with substance use disorder, SUD, as millions of Americans suffer with SUD. I got that from SAMHSA 2018. If you look down at the bottom in my references, you see one thing, they're in alphabetical order. Another things, you see how they're indented, but you see SAMHSA 2018 is at the bottom. Do you see how that matches up? So then I wrote, now also this brings me to a point, is always spell the word out the first time you use it. In this case, it's substance use disorder. From that point, and then in parentheses, SUD. From that point forward, I'll use SUD, right? Same thing with like AA. Don't write AA, write Alcoholics Anonymous in parentheses, then write AA, and then you can use AA the rest of the time. Always write the word out the first time it's used. So the second sentence, SUD is oftentimes defined by using many variables. That's my opinion, right? Because here's how I support that opinion with our textbook. Well, with this textbook. Lewis et al. 2019 note. Now, let me stop before I read this. When you see et al., that means there's more than one author. That's all that means. So we only use the first author's name. You'll come down to the bottom here. You'll see Lewis, Dana, and Blevins. Those are the three authors of this book that I'm citing, right? You only cite the first author, Lewis, and it says et al. Means more than one author. So 2019 note. Now you notice there's quotation marks. That means this is a direct quote. For general counseling purposes, a substance abuse problem is assessed, blah, 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 blah. You see at the end of it, there's a page number because I used a direct quote. Right? So then you see here in the comment, this is a direct quote. We'll go over the citations as well on another one more in depth on another slide here. Again, I paraphrase the next thing. You get the idea here. Now I used 4 resources. You only have to use 2, right? I just was making an example here. This is how a DB should be written. You see at the end, there's a references. Then there's my references. This is all done in Blackboard as I showed you in the D2L. You'll click the course learning module, you'll click the DB, and you'll type all of this directly into the D2L, right? What I would encourage you to do is type it on a Word document and then copy and paste it over. That way your grammar's right, all the things, right? Okay, so here's a response example, right? Only I didn't put the references. That's weird. Okay, so here's a problem. My DB response should have one reference at the bottom, just like at the top up here. So that's on me. But here's where I say, I agree there's many variables, right? That's my opinion. I'm agreeing with what I read in the DB. But now here I'm supporting that opinion. According to Kring and Johnson, now this would say, this is an old one. If you look over, I did this in 2021. Now you would say Kring et al. 2018. There is the blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. I write, I support. This is how you do it. And then I thank them again. Not included in my word count is the affirmation for the post, right? When I say thank you for the provoking post, I don't count that in my word count. So you get the idea here. This is a way a DB should look, with the exception of it should have a reference, DB and a response, right? So let me your next tab is going to be, let me see here. Sorry guys, I had to reopen this. It's going to be APA Examples 2. Now again, you want to download this. I don't think you really need to download this one, but I just download it. It's fine. I don't think this one has comments. Okay, here's another example of a post with 2 references. This is exactly how a DB post should look. Starting within 1970. You see I've cited my 2 resources several times in the post and at the end of the work. Remember, it's got to be cited in the work and at the end of the work. Right? So read this. I do not have any direct quotes in here. You want to use minimal direct quotes. You want to paraphrase, right? So if, for example, if our book, Daac 2019, I think is our author. I forget between this one and Lone Star. I think it is Daac is the author's name. And it says in the book somewhere something like, let's say it says, Alcoholics Anonymous is the most heavily attended self-help group in the United States. So if I were to quote that and put that in quotes, then I would write the author's name, date, and page number. But if I'm going to paraphrase, which is better, I would say something like, let's see, what would I say? In the United States, AA is very heavily supported as a support group, or heavily attended support group, something. You get the idea. I would just mix it up a little bit, right? Use my own words, but say the same thing. That's paraphrasing, right? So notice my word count's 206 without the references. So now here's where I'm going to really show you how do we cite in the text, right? What determines what we do? So I've created this fictional book called Elephants Are Gray. Now, I'm writing the same sentences, but using different ways to cite the work inside. I made a book called Elephants Are Gray. Caldwell D is the author. 2021 is the publishing date. And then the publisher, right? So that's at the end of my reply. So here is, let's say, I read these are examples of like responses. The word counts aren't there. This is just to show you how to cite your work inside. So I write, it was particularly now I've just read someone's post fictionally about gray elephants, right? It was particularly beneficial to learn that elephants are gray. In your discussion board post, you noted that elephants get their gray skin color from blah, 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 whatever it is I say, right? Now, here's where I'm citing my work. And what I want you to note is I'm citing it at the beginning. Caldwell, parentheses date, 2021, points out elephants' pigment can vary from elephant to elephant. Now that's an indirect quote that I paraphrased in this case, right? So there's no quotation marks. What you see at the beginning is the author and date are at the beginning of the sentence. Notice Caldwell 2021, the parentheses are around the date only. And where am I getting the date? You see it, my reference at the bottom, that's the publishing date for the book. It's always there, right? Or the article. So where it says Caldwell, when I start a sentence with a citation at the beginning, only the date is in parentheses. I can cite the same thing at the end of the sentence, and then the whole thing will be in parentheses. Like look at the next one, example 2. Same exact sentences. It was particularly beneficial to learn that elephants are gray. In your discussion board post, you noted that elephants get their gray skin color from blah, 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 whatever I say. Now notice, here's my highlighted part. Same exact sentence. Only this time, I'm not citing it at the beginning. I'm citing it at the end. Elephant's pigment can vary from elephant to elephant. In parentheses, the author and the date, Caldwell 2021. Still an indirect quote, no quotation marks. I paraphrase that. So author and date are at the end of the sentence, and note the parentheses are around both the author's name and the date. So the reason you would choose to use one over the other is just the flow of the paper. If it sounds better to you to say Caldwell 2021 points out elephant's pigment can vary from elephant to elephant, do that. If it feels better and sounds better to you in your paper to just start the sentence, elephant's pigment can vary from elephant to elephant, and cited at the end, Caldwell 2021, great. Either way is okay. There's not a right or wrong. It's just for flow of the paper and the reading, right? Now, here's if there is a direct quote. Let's use the same sentence and now say it's a direct quote. Okay. It was particularly beneficial to learn elephants are gray. In your presentation, you noted elephants get their gray skin color from blah, blah, blah. Now, notice this time there's quotation marks around this sentence. Elephant's pigment can vary from elephant to elephant, end quote. That means I have taken that information directly from this book, copied it word for word. So then you see at the end of the sentence, my name, the author's name, the year, and a page number are all in parentheses. So the one example I don't have on here, and I need to update this, is if I started in the beginning, the same rule applies. It would say Caldwell, parentheses 2021, points out or notes or says or writes, quotation, elephant's pigment can vary from elephant to elephant, end quote, and then it would just have another parentheses with a page number. You saw that in your student example paper, right? So if you do it in the beginning, same thing, name is by itself with parentheses in the date, and then page number at the end has a parentheses. If you cite it all at the end, it's all one thing in parentheses, right? So you will always have to provide your references in the writing in text and at the end of your work. If you don't, it's considered plagiarism. Plagiarism, easy for me to say, even if it's unintended. At the end of the day, you're using someone's work without giving them credit, right? Or you're just providing an opinion without support. So keep that in mind. I hope this was helpful. It says D2L down here like it's Blackboard. Ignore that piece. But you can always refer back to this. Look, I'm happy. There's one more we're going to go over. I'm happy to schedule Zoom meetings anytime to go over these exact examples or other examples and walk you through it. I really don't want you to get too nervous. I know it's new for a lot of you. We're going to be okay with it. We always are. People get panicked up front, but they become great at it by the end. There's two more tabs. One is the official website on APA. There's a lot of great information in here, right? But you can look that one over on your own. My last example is textbook, big book, 12 and 12, and DSM's citations. I want to be clear here. This is how you cite our textbook. This is a different textbook. So I'll re-upload this. I think this is my Lone Star book. Let me see something really quickly here. I'll tell you. I'm pretty certain it is. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So this is my Lone Star textbook. I will have this updated before Monday, and it'll have our textbook with the Daac. And this will be all you have to do is copy and paste it. It's right here, guys. It doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get easier. Copy and paste it and use that as your reference, right? So this one says Lewis, Dana, and Blevins. And you see how it's indented, right? This is at the end of your work, as it's noted. Now, in your writing, you would say, if for an indirect quote, remember at the beginning of a sentence, Lewis et al., parentheses, date, 2019, notes drugs are bad. Again, et al., et, period, al, period, comma, just means, or et, space, al, period, comma, just means there's more than one author, right? Another indirect quote, if you do it at the end of the sentence, drugs are bad, Lewis et al., 2019, with the whole thing in parentheses. Direct quote, drugs are bad in quotation marks. At the end of the sentence, Lewis et al., 2019, page XX, whatever it is, right? And all in parentheses. And you can read the little paragraph here. But I will redo this with our author. I always say Arthur. Like it's our author and our textbook. So you can just copy and paste that, right? And now here's the AA Big Book. It's not Bill W. It's Alcoholics Anonymous 2001. You saw this in your student example paper. So here's how this is how it looks at the end of your text. See that again, the second sentence is indented. The Big Book in text would say it would look like one of these four things. Alcoholics Anonymous. If we start at the beginning, it would be Alcoholics Anonymous, parentheses 2021. I'm sorry, 2001. If it's at the end of the sentence, the whole thing's in parentheses. Alcoholics Anonymous, 2001. That means they're indirect quotes. If they're direct quotes, it would be if I at the end of the sentence, the whole thing. Alcoholics Anonymous, 2001, page XX, right? Page whatever it is. Or if you do it at the beginning of the sentence, Alcoholics Anonymous, parentheses, 2001, direct quote, after your direct quote, parentheses, page, whatever it is, right? And you can see these examples here. And so we go down below is how you would do the 12 and 12 for AA. Same, gives you plenty of examples here. Then there's the DSM. Here's how you would cite that. It's not the DSM. You would say American Psychiatric Association, 2013. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So you see, and here's how you would use those in a sentence. Like, I've done the work for you on these things. So if you have a book or a website or anything, go to Citation Machine and put your information in there and get familiar with that. So that's how you would do something else. Other than that, I have these things cited for you. It doesn't get easier, guys. I've made it as easy as I can. Again, I will get this updated so that it shows our textbook, not the Lone Star textbook. And I'm happy to help meet again as many times as you need to walk you through this individually. We can meet for a Zoom meeting, share screens, do all of that. If you don't reach out to me and ask, I have to assume you know, right? And so again, I just want to go be very clear. I get these papers every semester with these crazy title pages. You saw how clean that student example is. That's what a paper should look like. DBs, there's no title page. There's no abstract in anything. In a DB, there's no title page, and there's no separate Word document. You just type that into to Blackboard. The paper has the title page, the body page, and the reference page. So guys, I hope this was helpful in some way. You'll be pros at it midway through the semester. It's really not that serious, right? But it is part of what we do. And so it's important that you know it. Trust me, it may not feel like it today. I'm doing you a solid if you continue your education. Guys, I can't wait to work together this semester. It's always such a blast for me and to work with you guys. So if you have any questions, please reach out. We'll talk soon.